Alright guys, so I'm very exhausted, and the reason why is because I've recorded this video that I'm about to show you guys at minimum around 3 times, and the reason why is because every single time I record the video and I go to get the footage and I try to do all the transferring and stuff, something always goes wrong, and the video gets lost somewhere. I just recorded this exact video like an hour ago, and I spent the whole hour. It's 7 right now. I spent all of 6 o'clock just trying to find that video in the computer so that I can airdrop it to my phone. And so, yeah, guys. So with that being said, I'm very, very, very tired. I just want to get through this. And to give the disclaimer, this is a sort of halfway done project. Okay, it's not a finished project. A lot of this information I'm going to be showing you guys, I'm going to be spitting in here, is going to be very freestyle, and yeah, man, it's just going to be very raw. I'm just going to be spitting out, going off the dome when I'm spreading this knowledge, you guys, when I'm showing you guys this knowledge. So with that being said, just be tuned, be ready. Let's get into it. All right, guys. So now we are recording. We're just gonna go straight into the presentation. Got pretty much gotta give you guys the basic breakdown what it's gonna be about. So here we're gonna look. Obviously, it's the Nilotic connections to Nubian Camp. You guys read the title. We're gonna be taking a deep look into the Dinka connections and Nuer connections. We'll also be making some Egypto-Nubian connections. Sort of taking a little bit of a dive into that subject. Again, like I said, none of this information is very detailed. This is a halfway done project, so there's a lot. I wouldn't even say halfway done. It's really just like this much done. You know what I'm saying? Just because of how much I'm constantly learning about the subject and how much I was able to fit in here. Right now, as I'm currently speaking, it is August. It's August 15th, as you guys can see. I don't know if you guys can see. It's August 15th as we speak, and I started this project. I started creating it at April 18th. All right, guys. So all the knowledge I got is like well over a year of research, and this is really just when I started getting the project done. So now we're gonna get into some, again, a introduction. What we're gonna be looking at. We're gonna be looking at the Dinka and where, who are they? Who are the Nilotics? Who are the Nubians? What is the difference between the ancient and modern day Nubia? In concept, we're going to be taking a look at the very beautiful country of Sudan, or what used to be Sudan, which now split into the land of Sudan, South Sudan, and earlier times was known as the colonial times known as the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. So, got a question: who are the Nilotic people? Nilotic people are people indigenous to the Nile Valley. Nilotic people speak Nilotic languages and inhabited vast region around the Nile Valley. We're some of the earliest settlers, and I say we because I am a Nilotic person myself. I am from the Dinka tribe. We have inhabited the Nile River. We're the earliest inhabitants of the Nile River. A people with a distinct ancestry and distinct genetics within the African Negroid race. Some people might want to, ask the question, what is race, and the definition of black. And I will say that this is not the presentation for that. Okay, so now we're looking into the geography. We got the geography of the Nilo, specifically looking at the Dinka subsection of the Nilotic phenotype. As you guys can see, if you look at the map at the bottom right of the screen here, guys, we can see the geography of where this phenotype exists. As you guys can see, basically it covers all of Sudan and almost all of Egypt, a pretty good amount of Egypt. I believe these are some of the ancient presences of the ancient Nilotics, who were major contributors to the ancient Egyptian and ancient Nubian civilization, and actually lived in Egypt as Egyptian citizens, and ancient Kush as Kushite citizens. As you guys can see, it says we take a look at how Dinka phenotype and Nilotic phenotype takes a considerable amount of the Nile Valley, especially in the northern area in Sudan and Egypt. Also, as expected for a Nilotic phenotype, the geographical volume of this phenotype stays relatively close to the Nile. Like I said, since it's a Nilotic phenotype and it's based around the Nile, that's where the name Nilotic comes from. it would make sense that we are people who stay close to the Nile Valley. So yeah, we're looking at, okay, Nilotic history. Who were they? Nilotics inhabited civilizations as ancient Egypt and ancient Nubian kingdoms such as Kush City, and the Christian Nubian kingdoms of Lodi, Mercuria, and there was also Nubia. And with these civilizations, we see a wide range of evidence for Nilotic culture and DNA that has been found. So here we're going to take our first look into some DNA. On the right screenshot, we have a examination of Nubian Egyptian biological differences support biological diffusion or situ development. We're not going to jump too much in that today. All I'm really going to say is that they studied the mtDNA and they found out that there was a dispersal point. And this is includes both Nubians and Egyptians. There was a dispersal point in the Nile Valley where people went and spread out to different directions. And the way that they noticed is because in some areas there is little mitochondrial DNA variety, and there's some places where there's more. But they can kind of track down to tell where there was a place where people kind of spread out and went to different directions into the Nile Valley. There was a video titled and it was made by I believe the study of origins and antiquity, something like that. They made a video titled the origins of the ancient Egyptians with DNA. This study was mentioned. They describe it a lot better than I do, and I have a little video from them in this presentation. We're not gonna go too much through that. I'm not gonna let that play. You guys want to watch that, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Now we're looking into the Nilotic population. So here we can see that genetic and linguistic studies have demonstrated Nubian population in northern Sudan and southern Egypt are an admixed group that started off as a population closely related to Nilotic people. This population later received significant gene flow and from the Middle East and other East African populations. Nubians are considered to be descendants of the early inhabitants of the Nile Valley who formed the kingdom of Kush, which included Kerma, Meroe, and the medieval kingdoms of Mercuria, Nubia, and Nylonic. These studies suggest that populations closely related to Nilotic people long inhabited in the Nile Valley as far as southern Egypt in antiquity. God, I do not know what's going on with my reading voice. I'm just trying to get through this real quick. So yeah, here we'll get into more geography, just like how I shown in this first slide, where it shows where Nilotic people were geographically, and specifically, we're not even looking at just Nubian. We're looking at Dinka people, a specific subsection of the Nilotic phenotype. So now we got more DNA. Got a number 2 slide for DNA. And it says, right here, I'm just going to read the highlights. It says, Nilotic populations occupying the White Nile, which is in modern-day South Sudan, which include groups like me, myself, Dinka, and Nuer tribes and all that stuff, and some Lua who live in the area. So long-term genetic continuity, genetic isolation, and genetic links to ancestral East African people. Compared to current times, groups that are ancestral to the current-day Nilotes likely inhabited a larger area of Northeast Africa prior to the migration from the Middle East, as their ancestry component can still be found in a large area. So this kind of just corroborated what I just said, considering the geography of the Nilotes. There were migrations from the Middle East, which caused admixture, which would be the reason why there are some people who don't look like me, like the stereotypical Nilotic Southern Sudanese. As you guys can see here, what I seen shown in this slide was that there were migrations from the Middle East. They mixed with the local Nilotic people and other East African groups that already existed within the area, mixed and created who we now call Nubians. Again, and that's why I said right here in this first slide, when we look at the geography of the Nilotes, why these areas that take up all of Sudan and most of Egypt are more ancient rather than modern thing. Because most Dinka people, most Southern Sudanese who live in Egypt today live in Cairo as refugees and recently went there. But here, specifically in this presentation, we're looking at the ancient DNA studies. So now we're going to take more look. So here we got the last slide for DNA, and there was a study from Kulabnardi. As you guys can see, the ancient Nubian genetic profile found a mixture between West Eurasian and Sub-Saharan Dinka-related ancestries. The samples were estimated at 60% West Eurasian ancestry, likely came from the ancient Egyptians. Ultimately, resembles that found bronze or iron age 11. So, and then they carried about 40% Dinka related ancestry. And the whole excuse or explanation for that how they say ancient Egyptians is that these ancestries likely made their way into Sudan through Egypt, which is why they would be also considered some people within ancient Egypt during this time period. Which, mind you, these were from 650 to 10,000. Oh no, 650 to 1000 CE. So this is way after ancient Egypt. As you guys can see, the what am I even trying to say, bro? It's basically the people came through Egypt. You know what I'm saying? After Egypt, people were already mixing at the end of Egypt. So this is way even after Egypt. You know what I'm saying? People were coming in, mixing with the local populations, etc., etc. You know what I'm saying? And then we obviously have that Dinka related ancestry, which are people of the Nile. There were two cemeteries that were excavated. There was the R cemetery and the S cemetery. Kulumnari is an island within the Nile. It's in like a very, very northern part of Sudan. Anyways, moving next, we're looking at the archaeology of the Nilotic landscape. When I say Nilotic in this context, I just mean the Nile Valley. And it says an incredible notable section because the established genetic links between modern day Nilos and along the Nile Valley and populations that inhabited land of ancient Egypt and Nubia. Will be taking a look into the archaeological connections to the modern Nilotic populations. Before we do that, I just realized I forgot something. There was a DNA study that I kind of skipped over. So on your right, we have a study that shows that Mesolithic Nubians that were actually described as Nilotic populations. If you guys look up into the upper part of that left or that right picture, you'll see it says, let me read it. The process of people in the Nile Valley likely shaped the population structure, the early biological similarity between the Egyptians and Nubians. Of others have noted affinity among Nilotic populations. Golden key term, Nilotic populations, was due to aggregation of events including environmental, linguistic, and socio-political changes over a great deal of time. This study seeks to evaluate the relationships between Nubian and Egyptian groups in the context of original peopling. Craniometric traits from 18 Nubian and Egyptian samples spanning from Lower Egypt to Lower Nubia, approximately 7,400 years, were analyzed using, I don't know how to say that, as a measure of biological distance. So there was also some DNA that may have been included as well. You know what I'm saying? Principal coordinates analysis, spectral model. The results reveal temporal spatial patterning consistent with the documented events within Egyptian and Nubian population history. Moreover, the more important part is that Mesolithic Nubians samples clustered with later Egyptian samples, as you guys can see right there. You know what I'm saying? Very verbatim. So now we're going to take a look into the archaeology. Before we take a look into that, we got some definitions of what is a Nubian. I should have put this in the first. So like I said, this is a rough draft. This is a rough draft project. So a lot of this stuff I'm still messing around, moving it, still adding, taking away information as I need to go. So when we got Nubian, there's multiple definitions. Okay, the first time it was ever used, it was coined by Aristophanes, who was a European geographer, most likely from Greece, who was referring to the Nubia people. And now when we say Nubian in a modern day context, it likely refers to the people who are a part of the ethno-linguistic group of the early Nubian speakers who came during the fall of the kingdom of Kush and later established the Christian kingdoms that I mentioned, Makuria, Nobatia, and Nilotic, which also had a lot of Nilotic populations. So, to sum it all up, a Nubian today is somebody who's a part of the ethno-linguistic group of, these speakers of the Nubian language. They speak Nubian. That's it. Interestingly enough, though, Dinka people actually speak about, and within the Dinka language, it's actually about 25% Nubian. You know what I'm saying? Which shows that we are connected in a way. And so yeah, there's that. And in ancient times, during ancient Egypt, what we call Nubia today was actually not called Nubia. It was likely called NHS, in hieroglyphics wrote as NHS, which just meant southerner, or refers to Southland. Interesting enough, part of Sudan was actually part of the original Egyptian territory, and we'll be taking a look into that when we get into it. So first, we're going to be looking at some Nilotic Nubian connections, or ancient Nubian connections, Nilotic Kushite connections, and it says archaeological evidence as well as physical evidence of the livelihood of Nilos, including their dome shape. Takul shows that they may have made an enormous contribution to the governance and wealth of the Nubia kingdom before the 25th dynasty. So again, here Nilotic people played a very very critical role within these kingdoms. Okay, I'm not only proving that we're there, but I'm showing that we were actually useful citizens to the civilization. Here we're looking at what I just said. That part of Sudan was actually part of the original Egyptian territory. To keep this all simple, they found a rock inscribed domain of Horus King Scorpion in Wadi, Sudan. This is in the very northern part of Sudan, and for those of you guys who don't know, Horus King Scorpion may have been the first pharaoh of ancient Egypt, the guy who united it all and started the first Egyptian dynasty. And as you guys can see, since they found this rock here, it is hypothesized that Sudan was most likely part of the original ancient Egyptian territory. And for those of you guys who don't know, for some extra context, Nubia, within this modern day definition, actually starts in Aswan, Egypt, around the first cataract. So that means that the Egyptian territory went deep into what we now call Nubia. Just showing again a very critical connection between the two we like to call two. Now I don't really call them two. I say they were one. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like looking at the relationship between the Dinka and Nuer, I believe, or like Sudan and South Sudan. Now we're looking. Okay, now we got the Napta player. To keep this all simple, I'm gonna just read it so you guys can get the context, so I don't have to go off the top of my head, kind of getting tired. So located in Africa, the Napta player stands around 700 miles south of the Great Pyramids of ancient Egypt. It was built more than 7,000 years ago, making the Napta player the oldest stone circle in the world and possibly the oldest in the Earth. The Earth's oldest astronomical observatory. It was constructed by cattle worshipping cult of nomadic people to mark the summer solstice and the arrival of monsoons. This is a quote from this bottom article that I saw right here, the one that says Napta player world's first astronomical site built in Africa is older than built in Africa and is older than Stonehenge. So, and then here under that quote, I have my little description of it. I'm gonna read it. It says, "This is an important find considering that many stone megaliths, buildings, and monuments in Egypt would be in alignment with the stars in the sky. That includes, but is not limited to, the Great Pyramids of Giza, showing the connection between those Nilotics who inhabited Nubia. At the same time, the stone circles may have been used by nomadic pastoralists. This is worth noting because Nilotes are known for being some of the biggest pastoralists." So, to keep it fair, I'm not going to assume that these people are Nilotic people. I really do not know the people who built this, but Nilotic people were very present during this time period. And we are some big pastoralists, like I just said. So I don't believe that is a stretch. I would also give credit to some Cushitic populations as well, who may have been there, just to keep it fair until we get any solid thing. And the reason why this is important, again, like I said, I mentioned the ancient Egyptian pyramids and how people would line things up with the stars. This is very important to consider, just because this is where it started, and here we can actually see the development of the people into building these great monuments and all this stuff that they did. And now we're gonna look, okay, Origin of the Pharaohs. Again, like I said, this is a unfinished, half done, not even half done, this much done, 1/4 done presentation. Didn't get to write any description, but basically, to give you guys context, the coastal incense burner was an incense burner found in Sudan, which dated back earlier, a couple of centuries earlier than the first pharaohs, and was assumed to be evidence that Sudan someone's calling. Sudan had pharaohs and earlier than ancient Egypt, and we know this because the crystal incense burner had the same symbols that were used in later ancient early dynastic tombs of ancient Egypt. Okay, so basically, you look at the crystal incense burner, they found some symbols on it. You know what I'm saying? Which made them believe, these symbols match the symbols of early ancient tombs of early Egyptian pharaohs, which kind of helped them come to the conclusion that Sudan had the first kings before. It obviously goes deeper than that, but since I have no description here, and you know what I'm saying, I'm just going off the top of my dome, trying to get through as much information as I can. You know what I'm saying? I'm really just winging it, man. So here we're gonna look into the Nilotic cultural parallels. This is gonna be the last slide. Again, half-finished thing. It says archaeological studies strongly suggest that most populous Nilotic culture present in present South Sudan, the Dinka, did not arrive in the region until the 14th to 15th century. And then I got the source there from Sudan's Blood Memory. Again, guys, this is really just to show you we did not even come into the southern Sudan until recent times, couple hundred years ago. Okay, these migrations happened over many period of time. Like I said, you know what I'm saying, happen in waves. And this book actually gets deep into like how we got in there. It actually has a map of all the migrations, if you guys seen in my earlier videos. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much it, guys. So all we got, is some cultural. This is gonna be the section for culture. Just to make a brief statement, you look at the culture specifically or especially that's between the modern day Nilotics, the Dinkas, such as myself, and the ancient Kushites, you'll see a lot of cultural continuity. If you look at the Dinka wrestlers, they'll look a lot like the ancient Kushites. If you guys can see this picture, this big picture on the top right, you'll see that these people look a lot like Dinka wrestlers. Even that picture on the bottom left, and then on the top left, we have a picture comparing Dinka and ancient Egyptian, and specifically we're looking at the necklaces, how they resemble each other. Then on the bottom, we're looking at the cattle culture, even not even just the bottom, but the top right, and then the bottom three, you can see, all the pictures that have cattle in it. You know what I'm saying? Cattle culture. We'll definitely be getting into that, such as and many more, such as burial culture, hairstyles, tribal markings, cattle culture, such as horn deformation, and musical instruments. All this stuff will be taken into consideration, but what I gave that description for is just to get you guys a kind of a look. And oh yeah, there's also tribal markings that are also the same too. Specifically, if you look at the Nubian tribal marks and ancient Kushite tribal marks on the forehead, parallel lines on the forehead. But yeah, guys, so that's pretty much it. Let me know how I did. I kind of try to rush this because I want to see how the video turns out. Probably sounded like a geek. It is what it is, though. I care about my history. I like my history. With that being said, man, you guys have a good day. You brothers have a good day. You sisters have a good day. And yeah, man, stay chill, man.